So that video, little rabbit video, I would not be able to get that anywhere else in the forest. It's just too complicated of a shot. I would have to bring some camera boxes with me, or some timed photo gear, and leave it out there, and actually finding that, in a big forest, finding an area where little baby rabbits are laying down, and you kind of eye their mom kind of fixing them, and just not spoiling the situation. This was actually taken right like 2 feet from me through my window. I waited it out. I seen a rabbit. I seen a little hole of some baby rabbits, and it took night after night waiting. And essentially, the rabbit came in right, the mother rabbit came in right at dark. It's kind of grainy, but I've never witnessed that. I've never witnessed where the rabbit kind of pushes down the hole and kind of uses itself as a decoy. It's kind of close by in case a cat or something comes by. It draws the attention of a cat or a raccoon to chase them, and draws it away from the babies. And that's just kind of behavior you only get with a lot of time. And so, that being said, the advantages of backyard photography, because essentially, a couple of years ago, I put out a video on backyard birding, and it was kind of limited. And I want to say, backyard wildlife photography is really kind of the situation. So when I started, I moved in this house about 17, 18 years ago, and essentially there was very little cover, extreme small amount of cover, and I had to kind of build it up from the ground up, because there's no squirrels, there was no trees, nothing. And so I kind of went through this. I'll show you some photos of what it looked like when I moved in, or close, and how things have progressed over the period of time. And so the advantages of wildlife in your backyard, there's a lot. And sometimes I just kind of kick myself of looking at the photos and the results. For instance, 6 months ago, I put out a cardinal video, and it was 14 degrees or 5 degrees or something. It was very cold, and I spent hours out there setting up, looking for a spot. And I look at the photos, and they're okay, like 5 out of 10 or something. But then I kind of remember back to some of the cardinal photos I have here, and there's like no comparison. Like, the lighting's better, the backdrop and the color of the backdrop's better. Everything has been pre-rehearsed, and I think that's the takeaway from doing it in your backyard, is you're able to rehearse the shot, you're able to practice it and perfect it, and you're able to bring in additional props, like if you want a sun shield, or if you want different kinds of flags or reflectors to even out the exposure. You can do that. You could even use flash photography. I'm not a big fan of it, but you can bring that in to your photography in the backyard, where it's a lot tougher in I guess the real world of a big open door out space area. For instance, if it's something there's 200 acres or 500 acres, you're looking at much more time and scouting for animals. Where if you have, let's say, a quarter of an acre lot, your time is like 5 minutes. Like, literally, you mow every week, or if you have an apartment, you just have a little windowsill, or if you have just a rail or a balcony, you can get things to come in and create some awesome photographs that people will kind of be jealous of. And yeah. So that being said, cheaper on gas, no park fees. You don't have to drive dangerous and weather, because a lot of the weather conditions actually help the photograph, creates that atmosphere. But there's been times where I've been out in snowstorms and I didn't feel great driving home. I was like, the whole time I was there, I was like, yeah, this could get bad. I could get stuck, that kind of situation. Where if you're in your house, obviously the climate conditions are way better. If you look at some of my videos, I'm sweating, I got sweat pouring. Everyone's like, hey, you're sweating, I see sweat on your head, or oh, it looked pretty cold. I'm like, yeah, do you think, it's 4 below or 95 degrees in the tent? But in your house, you could stay there all day, or if you have a blind, you just go downstairs, or you go move something, stay there for a little bit, run back up inside, get warmed up, come back out, and it's just so much more productive in that realm. Another one is making modifications to your environment. A lot of times you're in a big forest, and you just kind of, you have to deal with it. You have to just take the shot that you got, and you can't like bend branches, or you can't set up. Where you can make modifications if it's your own place. You can make things nice preemptively, and make things super, super clear. And that kind of comes back to the time allotted, which I keep saying, more time with animals and birds, you're better your photography. Bar none, you'll have like 50 photos of this animal once you get them to kind of come in on a normal basis. 50 photos, and maybe that one that you get perfect catch light, perfect body position, perfect sharpness, all that aligns. A lot of times, in other places, you just don't get that much time because it's so big, they're moving from one area to another. And so how do you go about doing this, this setup? Well, I'll show you what it looked like before in 2004 when I moved in, roughly, and then I think 2007 I planted the pine trees, and there's been some back, bushes and other trees put in. But it's a substantial difference between then and now. And I kind of refer to it as 3 stages. Your heavy bush, where you want your wildlife to reside. That's where they feel safest at. And then you have your staging areas, like a couple trees that they can land in, and that's their travel path to your posing sticks. And this just isn't, about birds. It's also about every animal there is. It doesn't matter, raccoon, possum, squirrels. You're going to have this. They're going to be in heavy shrubs and cover. So the first thing is to try to get as much cover as possible, much shade, cover, something to give them safety. And it could be just a little pile of wood. For instance, out back underneath the deck, my wife went and trimmed some trees, just trying to trim it, and she didn't want to leave it in the yard where I mow. She brought it in an area where there's not any grass underneath the deck. But that brought in the mother rabbit, and she dug the hole right next to the big pile of sticks for the little babies. In case they're harassed, they could maybe run in the pile of sticks and hide. And it brings a little bit more comfort to the animals when they have a lot of cover. And then you got the staging trees, which I put down 3 evergreens, and evergreens for a reason. But these 3 trees are kind of the path to the posing sticks and that. So it makes them feel good. They hear something. They're curious. They hear birds, and all of a sudden the squirrel will go from the heavy bush to right next to the pine tree, then right on top of the posing sticks, and that works out really, really well. And again, it doesn't matter what animal it is. They all kind of follow that path of safety. That being said, you have to kind of take into consideration what kind of trees you're going to plant. If you're looking at that, I put in evergreens or pine trees simply from the fact that it doesn't matter at the time of year, it's always a clean shot. Summer, this is a shot, my furthest tree at P900 at 2,000 millimeters, a cardinal, midsummer. If that was a maple tree or something, not going to be possible. But your trees kind of dictate what kind of wildlife you can have too. If you want a big oak tree, you're going to have squirrels, possums, raccoons. But if you have pine trees, not necessarily a good choice. Just know that food source and how you set it up, along with the water in your environment, all kind of dictates some of the animals that you're going to be able to have come in. So look at the trees, look at the shrubs, look at the cover, and then offer up a little bit more water and food of some sort. And that's kind of the whole basis of attracting them. Now you got to kind of think of 2 things, or 3 things actually. The blind, or your position you're going to do your photograph, the position of your cover. So where are you going to plant your trees? Where are you going to plant them? In addition to the sunlight coming in. So you might want it a little bit further over here, a little bit further over there. Maybe you want some side lighting in that tree, a little bit front lighting in that tree. It's all your decision, but you got to know where you're going to place your camera, and then start putting up your props, start putting up your posing sticks and everything else, or what your food source in relation to the sun, the time of day, or sunset, because obviously it goes from east to west, and your camera is going to shift, definitely going from one way or the other, unless you want front light in the morning and backlighting at night. But just know that's how you're going to have to do it. A lot of cover, a lot of food sources, and get your angles right and you're blind. How do you execute this? This is the thing that a lot of people don't realize. Your food source, the time of year. We have 4 seasons where I'm at, And one of the first mistakes, the biggest mistake I made was bringing out dry food in winter and summer. Hottest time of the year, 100 degrees, I'm bringing out dry food. I'm like, why aren't the birds showing up? Nothing's coming out? It's because they want water. It's the same thing in winter. If it's super, super cold, they can't really get water, so they're looking for like a hot bath. So just know you can switch things up. Maybe get a bird pool, a reflection pool, and keep it warm in the winter. Oh yeah, you'll have all kinds of animals come and bathe in that. In addition to, if you created like a goldfish pond, you're going to have, all kinds of possum and raccoon and mink, depending on what you have around you, kind of going after the goldfish, and especially it's warm, they'll be able to drink it, that kind of stuff. So just know food, water, execution, seasons, and that spring is generally really heavy food. They just come in for the food like crazy. They're feeding their babies, and they're just taking it with them, And then fall's kind of, they're loading up. They're doing that bulk load. Raccoons and squirrels and everything else just seem to be eating everything. They're hiding nuts. They're doing all kinds of activities. Yeah. So if you kind of realize you get your execution, you get your environment, you get your trees, cover set up, and then it's just a matter of adjusting your food sources for, woodpeckers or robins or what have you, and in correlation to the season of the year, or raccoons or squirrels and that. But I kind of want to know what your guys' thoughts on this. I kind of, I've been ignoring the whole backyard wildlife photography for a long time, starting this channel. It's not something, I kind of just want I want to get out. I want to get out of the house and do that. But I feel pretty confident I can get better photos in the backyard of a lot of the animals than I can in like 200 acres or 2,000 acres of wilderness. It's just time, effort, that you're allotted in vicinity of success in that. So that's it, guys. If you like this stuff, like, subscribe, and I will see you next week.